figure moves through the darkened hallways of a Texas church. They wear black tactical gear with the word police across the vest and carry a hammer, systematically breaking glass. The surveillance footage is grainy, but the detail that stands out most is the person's unusual gait, a distinctive walk that would become one of the most analyzed pieces of evidence in this unsolved case. On the morning of April 18, 2016, at the Creekside Church of Christ in Midlothian, Texas, 45-year-old Terry Leanne Missy Bevers was murdered. She was a wife, mother of 3, and Camp Gladiator fitness instructor. Despite extensive investigation, surveillance footage, and multiple persons of interest, no one has ever been charged with her murder. Missy Bevers was known throughout her community in Midlothian and Red Oak as a dedicated fitness instructor with a passion for helping others. She was married to Brandon Bevers and was the mother to 3 daughters. Her faith and energy made her a beloved figure in the community. On the morning of April 18th, Missy arrived at Creekside Church of Christ to prepare for her 5 a.m. Camp Gladiator boot camp class. The class was normally held outdoors in the parking lot, but a thunderstorm that morning meant it would be moved inside. This change in routine would prove fatal. At approximately 5 a.m., the first students arrived for class. Instead of finding their instructor ready to begin, they discovered a crime scene. Missy had suffered multiple puncture wounds to her head and chest. She was pronounced dead at the scene. According to surveillance footage from inside the church, an individual dressed in black tactical gear entered the building at approximately 3:50 a.m., roughly 30 minutes before Missy arrived. The footage shows the person wearing what Midlothian police described as specialized tactical equipment, including a helmet and a vest marked with the word police. They carried what appeared to be a bag of tools, including a hammer and pry bar. For nearly 30 minutes, the individual moved through multiple rooms and hallways. At one point, they used the hammer to break a window. The person's movements showed a distinctive gait, described by investigators as unusual or stiff, which would become a central focus of the investigation. Missy arrived at the church at 4:18 a.m. According to police, she encountered the intruder shortly after entering. The attack resulted in her death from multiple puncture wounds, consistent with a hammer assault. The tactical gear worn by the suspect became an important investigative detail. The outfit did not match standard issue equipment for any local law enforcement agency, suggesting it was either privately purchased, a costume, or specialized training gear. In cases of violent death, investigators typically begin by examining the victim's closest relationships. Midlothian police identified several persons of interest, though it's important to emphasize that being investigated does not imply guilt. Brandon Bevers, Missy's husband, was one of the first people police needed to account for. At the time of the murder, Brandon stated he was on a fishing trip in Biloxi, Mississippi, hundreds of miles from Midlothian. According to police reports, his travel records and other evidence appeared to support this alibi. However, investigators discovered that the Bevers marriage had experienced difficulties. Court documents later revealed financial strain and that Missy had discussed marital problems with others. While these facts established potential motive, they did not establish involvement in the crime. As the investigation progressed, police obtained search warrants that revealed additional information about the Bevers' personal life. According to warrant documents, investigators found that Brandon had been engaged in an online relationship with a woman he met through a dating website. Court documents describe the communications as emotionally intimate, though not physical. This discovery provided investigators with a possible motive to explore. Financial difficulties combined with marital discord. However, police would need more than motive to build a case. They needed to place a suspect at the scene. This is where cell phone data became crucial to the investigation. According to publicly available warrant information, police analyzed cell tower records associated with phones connected to persons of interest. While specific details of what this data revealed have not been fully disclosed, investigators have indicated that cell phone evidence remains an active component of their investigation. The challenge with cell phone tower data is that it can establish general proximity, but cannot pinpoint exact locations. A phone pinging off a particular tower might place someone within a radius of several miles, not at a specific address. The investigation extended beyond Brandon to include other family members. Randy Bevers, Missy's father-in-law, became a person of interest. According to warrant documents, there had been tension between Missy and her in-laws, including financial disagreements. Randy's initial alibi placed him in California at the time of the murder. Police investigated his travel records and communications. While he remains a person of interest in publicly available documents, no charges have been filed. It's important to note that family members being investigated in a homicide case is standard procedure, not an indication of guilt. Statistically, most homicides are committed by someone known to the victim, which is why investigators begin with the inner circle before expanding outward. The most distinctive piece of evidence from the surveillance footage is the suspect's unusual walking pattern. Multiple experts have analyzed this footage, and it has been the subject of considerable public discussion. Several theories have emerged about the gait. Theory 1. The person has a legitimate physical condition affecting their right leg or foot, causing a natural limp or stiffness. Theory 2. The tactical gear was oversized for the wearer, causing awkward movement. This theory gained traction because it suggested the suspect might be smaller than they appeared, possibly even a woman wearing gear sized for a larger man. Theory 3. The person was deliberately disguising their natural walk to avoid identification. Forensic gait analysis is a legitimate but controversial field of forensic science. While some experts believe distinctive walking patterns can help identify individuals, the science has not been universally accepted in courts as definitive evidence. Nevertheless, the distinctive gait in this case prompted numerous tips from the public about individuals with similar walking patterns. Police pursued multiple leads related to the tactical equipment seen in the footage. One significant development involved a search warrant executed at a local dry cleaning business. Investigators had received information about clothing that might be connected to the case. After extensive forensic testing, police determined that the seized clothing was not connected to the crime. This represented one of several investigative paths that ultimately didn't yield the breakthrough investigators hoped for. The theatrical nature of the tactical gear itself suggests several possibilities. The suspect wanted to appear as law enforcement to avoid suspicion if seen. The gear was intended to conceal the suspect's identity, size, and gender. The outfit was meant to stage the crime as something other than a targeted killing. The suspect had access to or familiarity with tactical equipment. Search warrant affidavits revealed another troubling aspect of the case. According to police documents, Missy had received messages through LinkedIn from an unknown individual in the time period before her death. Some of these communications were described in warrant documents as creepy or concerning in nature. Investigators interviewed at least one person who had communicated with Missy online. According to reports, this individual claimed the communications were innocent and was not ultimately considered a primary suspect. However, the existence of these messages raised the possibility that Missy was being stalked or monitored by someone who knew her schedule. The fact that the killer was waiting inside the church before Missy arrived suggests they knew where she would be and approximately when she would arrive. Police investigated whether a suspect may have used online communication or smartphone tracking to monitor Missy's movements and schedule. This theory supports the argument that the murder was targeted rather than a random encounter during a burglary. One of the central questions investigators have grappled with is whether this was a targeted killing staged to look like a burglary, or an actual burglary that turned deadly. Evidence suggesting staged crime. Nothing of significant value was stolen. The suspect spent 30 minutes in the church without attempting to access obvious valuables. The broken window could have been staged to suggest forced entry. The suspect appeared to be waiting rather than actively burglarizing. The attack on Missy was immediate and brutal, not consistent with a surprised burglar. Evidence suggesting burglary. The tactical gear and tools suggest someone prepared for a break-in. The suspect was breaking into multiple rooms. Early morning timing is common for commercial burglaries. Most investigators who've publicly discussed the case lean toward the theory of a targeted attack staged to appear random. However, without an arrest, this remains a theory rather than an established fact. As of this recording, the murder of Missy Bevers remains unsolved. The Midlothian Police Department has consistently stated that the case is active and ongoing, not cold. Several persons of interest have been investigated, but no arrests have been made. The individuals discussed in this video, Brandon Bevers, Randy Bevers, and others, have not been charged with any crime related to this case and are presumed innocent. According to public statements from law enforcement, investigators continue to receive tips and pursue leads. They have indicated that forensic evidence collected at the scene is still being analyzed and compared against potential suspects. The case has been complicated by the volume of evidence, surveillance footage, digital communications, cell phone records, and forensic evidence, all of which must be carefully analyzed and corroborated. The murder of Missy Bevers had a profound impact on the Midlothian community. A place of worship, meant to be a sanctuary, became the scene of a brutal crime. The randomness or apparent randomness of the attack created fear and uncertainty. Missy's family continues to seek justice. Her 3 daughters grew up without their mother, and her memory is preserved by those who knew her as a positive force in the community. The public nature of the investigation, with surveillance footage released to the media and extensive coverage of persons of interest, has also created challenges. Innocent people, whose names appeared in warrant documents or news reports, have faced public suspicion without being charged with any crime. This case serves as a reminder of the complexity of modern criminal investigations. Despite multiple leads, extensive evidence, and years of investigation, some cases remain frustratingly unresolved. High-profile cases generate intense public interest, which can produce helpful tips, but also creates pressure for a quick resolution. The murder of Missy Bevers remains one of Texas's most frustrating unsolved cases. Despite clear surveillance footage of the suspect, distinctive physical evidence, and extensive investigation of multiple persons of interest, the case remains open. If you have information about this case, the Midlothian Police Department continues to accept tips. Anonymous tips can be submitted through Crime Stoppers. It's important to remember that speculation, while natural in unsolved cases, can cause real harm to innocent people. The individuals discussed as persons of interest in this video have not been charged and deserve the presumption of innocence. For Missy Bevers' family, the search for answers continues. For investigators, this case represents an ongoing commitment to justice, however long it takes. What aspects of this case do you find most significant? Do you believe the evidence points toward a targeted attack or a tragic encounter during a burglary? Share your respectful thoughts in the comments below. If you found this analysis informative, please consider subscribing to our channel for more detailed examinations of criminal investigations.